We'll be listening to Fed Chief Ben Bernanke, as he just mentioned very closely. He's going to address the Joint Economic Committee on Capitol Hill. Senator Pat Toomey, a Pennsylvania Republican, will be there. But first, the senator's with us on Power Lunch. Also here, our senior economics reporter, Steve Leisman. Welcome to you both. Gentlemen, Senator Toomey, let me start with you. What do you intend to ask Mr. Bernanke tomorrow? And second question is, do you think that the economy, given the jobs number we had last week, is in need of some kind of monetary stimulus?
Well, as to the former question, I haven't finalized what I may ask Fed Chairman Bernanke. But I will tell you, my concern continues to be that we're using the wrong tool to solve the problem that we have. The problems that are afflicting our economy are driven by excessive and very imprudent and unwise regulation, a threat of a massive tax increase, and our complete unwillingness to deal with a completely unsustainable fiscal policy. The monetary solution is not the right solution to that. I'm worried that inflation could get out of control, could get away from the Fed. We see that the current CPI level is already above their target. They've got unprecedented easing, and I'm worried, frankly, that they're willing to throw more at this. I do think the economy is weak. I think the jobs numbers from last week are very, very worrisome. And but I just think that's the wrong tool to apply to this problem.
The senator, Steve, seems worried a little bit about inflation. There's no sign of inflation in this economy right now, is there?
He is correct, obviously, that the current rate is running above the inflation rate. And I think it's also probably correct to say that inflation has surprised some of the doves on the Fed board to the upside. But what we're talking about here are tenths, not whole numbers. So we're not running 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% inflation. We're running a little bit over 2 right now. Right. We have been as high as 3 or 4. But I want to ask the senator, Tyler, you came close, Senator, but I didn't hear you exactly say, do you think Fed policy is part of the problem, sir?
I wouldn't say that Fed policy is a big part of the problem, although I do think it does create worries. I hear it every day across Pennsylvania that the massive excess reserves that we have, $1.5 trillion, once that starts moving through the system, it could be very inflationary. So there is a worry, and I think that does have a chilling effect. But I think the bigger problems are, as I said earlier, it's the massive regulations, whether it's the healthcare overhaul, whether it's Dodd-Frank, whether it's a EPA on steroids. It's that combined with unsustainable fiscal policy and the threat of a massive tax increase. I think that's the combination that's having a very chilling effect on our
Senator,
economy.
and you couldn't have turned the conversation more adroitly. I want to turn to fiscal policy now because President Clinton, you may know, was on the closing bell with Maria Bartiromo yesterday, and he really stirred things up by talking about an extension, a Democrat talking about an extension of the Bush-era tax cuts. Let's look.
I think what it means is they will have to extend, they will probably have to put everything off until early next year. That's probably the best thing to do right now.
Shortly after that statement, President Clinton's office put out this statement saying, quote, he supported extending all of the cuts in 2010 as part of the budget agreement, but does not believe the tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans should be extended again. So I'm not quite sure what he said then, Senator, by the way. But does President Clinton's statement yesterday open the door potentially for some kind of agreement either prior to or in a lame duck session on an extension of the tax cuts in light of the fact that the economy is as weak as it is?
Well, avoiding this massive tax increase is just the right thing to do for the economy in any condition, certainly in the very weak condition that it's in. I think President Clinton, committed a gaffe, which, of course, for a politician is when you accidentally tell the truth. and he said, we should extend the current rates. The administration, the Obama campaign team, of course, immediately went apoplectic and begged or pleaded or cajoled him somehow to walk that back a little bit. But look, I think it's very clear. We've got a spending problem. We have allowed spending to double in just 10 years. Spending as a percentage of GDP is up dramatically. And so the concentration of resources in government leads to slower economic growth. It's spending that's the problem. And in fact, the current tax rates as recently as 2007 gave us a deficit of only 1.2% of GDP. What we've got to do is get spending under control.
I want to get a quick thought from you on the results of the election last night in Wisconsin. Let me put it this way. How, if at all, does that change the spin on the ball heading into November in the presidential race?
Oh, it's certainly very, very encouraging. You know, this was expected to be closer than it was. This is the first time a governor in a recall has won that race. You know, the issues that he ran on were well adjudicated, and he won big, even by a bigger margin than his first election. This is very encouraging in a state that is generally pretty much a blue state. So I think Wisconsin is totally on the map. If Wisconsin is on the map, I assure you so is Pennsylvania and a lot of other states that are traditionally considered states on the bubble. You know, I think everyone has to look at this and realize Governor Romney has a great chance of being elected president.
Yes. Well, thank you, Senator Toomey. We should point out that the president still leads in a popularity poll in that state, even though the election did not favor the Democratic side in that particular case. Senator Toomey, thank you again. Sue?
So, Ty, given today's market, how does the CEO running a 7-point